Scary telling.
I've always loved going to the flea and farmers markets with my mom on weekends. It's something we've done together for as long as I can remember. So when I heard about the Mom and Child Bazaar from my classmate Olivia, I was intrigued. Olivia told me that it was a place where parents and children could go if they were fed up with each other and wanted to exchange for a different parent or child. At first, it sounded like a strange and funny idea, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. After all, why shouldn't there be a market for moms and kids too? But then I started to notice some strange things happening around the house. Small objects seemed to be moved slightly out of place, and I heard strange noises in the middle of the night. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then I started to wonder if my own mother had been hiding something from me. That's why I started to feel paranoid. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off, and I began to believe that I may have been exchanged at the Mom and Child Bazaar as a child. Every time my mom mentioned going to the market or the bazaar, my heart would race and my palms would sweat. I couldn't help but wonder if she was trying to drop hints or give me some kind of signal. It wasn't until I overheard my mom talking on the phone one day that I started to feel like I was losing my mind. I couldn't make out everything she was saying, but I heard enough to know that she was talking about the bazaar. She said something about taking care of it and keeping up appearances. My mind raced with possibilities, and I couldn't stop thinking about what she could possibly be hiding from me. I tried to confront her about it, but every time I brought up the topic of the bazaar or the market, she would just smile and tell me not to worry about it. It was like she was trying to keep me in the dark, and I didn't know what to do. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that something terrible had happened to me at the bazaar. I started to research the history of the market and the stories of other children who had been exchanged there. The more I learned, the more frightened I became. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. The uncertainty and paranoia were too much to bear. I needed to know the truth about my past and whether or not I had been exchanged at the Mom and Child Bazaar. But I knew that confronting my mother directly would be risky. I had to find another way to get the answers I needed. My paranoia only grew stronger with each passing day, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something my mother wasn't telling me. I started to remember small details from my childhood that I had previously overlooked, like the red star dress that I used to wear all the time until my mom threw it away. The memory of the red star dress haunted me, and I couldn't help but wonder if it was somehow connected to the Mom and Child Bazaar. One day, I saw a similar dress in one of Olivia's drawings. It was like a jolt of electricity went through me. I had to know more. I confronted Olivia about it, asking her why she drew a girl wearing a dress with a red star on it. Olivia just laughed and told me that it was just a coincidence. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something more to it. I started to become obsessed with the idea that the dress was somehow connected to my past. I searched through old photo albums and found pictures of myself wearing the dress. It was like a piece of the puzzle had finally fallen into place. But the more I thought about it, the more confused I became. Why would my mother throw away a dress that I loved so much? And why was Olivia drawing me wearing it? I became increasingly paranoid, convinced that everyone was keeping secrets from me. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. One day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I snuck into my mother's room while she was out running errands and started looking through her things. I found an old photo album hidden in the back of her closet, filled with pictures of me as a baby. But something was off about the pictures. They were all taken in the same place, a room that I had never seen before. My heart raced as I flipped through the pages, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. And then I saw a picture of my mother holding me in her arms, standing in front of a booth at the Mom and Child Bazaar. It was like a bomb had exploded in my mind. Everything made sense now, the strange noises in the middle of the night, the moved objects, the red star dress, and my mother's strange behavior. I had been exchanged at the bazaar, just like Olivia had said. I felt like my entire world had been turned upside down. All of my memories, everything I thought I knew about my past, was suddenly in question. I couldn't help but wonder who was my real mother and where was she now. The revelation that I had been exchanged at the Mom and Child Bazaar had thrown me into a deep state of confusion and paranoia. I couldn't trust anyone, not even my own mother, and I felt like I was losing my mind. One day, I was sitting in class when Olivia walked in. She was carrying a drawing she had done of her family, and I couldn't help but notice the girl in the red star dress standing next to her. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal, convinced that Olivia was somehow involved in the exchange that had happened to me. I don't know what came over me, but I suddenly snapped. I grabbed a pair of scissors from my desk and lunged at Olivia, screaming and shouting about how she was involved in the bazaar and that she had to pay for what she had done to me. Olivia tried to defend herself, but I was too angry and too paranoid to listen. I stabbed at her eyes with the scissors, hoping to rid myself of the memories and the horrors that came with them. It wasn't until the other kids in the class started screaming that I realized what I had done. I looked down at the scissors in my hand, covered in blood, and felt a wave of guilt and fear wash over me. I ran out of the classroom and hid in a nearby park, feeling like my entire world had fallen apart. I couldn't believe what I had done, and I was convinced that I was going to be punished for my actions. As the hours passed, my paranoia only grew stronger. I couldn't shake off the feeling that the police were looking for me, or that my mother was going to disown me for what I had done. Eventually, I became too tired to keep running. I collapsed on the grass and started crying, feeling like there was no way out of the mess I had created. But then I heard a familiar voice calling out my name. It was my mother, looking frantically for me. She had heard about what had happened and had come to find me. I was relieved and scared at the same time. I didn't know how she was going to react when she found out what I had done. But she didn't yell at me or scold me. She just hugged me tightly and told me that everything was going to be okay. We went to the hospital to get treatment for my injuries and to make sure that Olivia was going to be okay. As I sat in the waiting room, I couldn't help but wonder how I had let my paranoia and fear get the best of me. I had hurt someone I cared about, and for what? A fear that had taken over my life. It was like a wake-up call. I knew that I had to face the truth about my past and come to terms with the reality of what had happened to me at the bazaar. But I didn't know where to start. After the incident at school, my mother and I grew closer than ever before. She didn't scold me or punish me for what I had done to Olivia, but instead comforted me and supported me through my healing process. As we spent more time together, I couldn't help but wonder about my past and the truth about the Mom and Child Bazaar. I knew that I had to face the reality of what had happened to me, but I didn't know where to start. One day, I worked up the courage to ask my mother about my adoption. She was hesitant at first, but eventually opened up to me about the truth. She explained that I had been exchanged at the bazaar when I was just a baby. My birth mother had taken me there, hoping to exchange me for a different child, but had never returned to pick me up. My adoptive mother had found me wandering around the market and had taken me in as her own. I was shocked and overwhelmed by the truth, but also relieved that I finally knew the reality of my past. I asked my mother more questions, trying to understand why my birth mother had given me up and what my real family was like. My mother didn't have all the answers, but she promised to help me find out more about my past and to support me in any way she could. We started to research more about the Mom and Child Bazaar and the families that had been exchanged there. As we dug deeper, we found stories of families torn apart by the bazaar and the trauma that came with it. I felt like I was part of a larger community, one that had gone through similar experiences and struggles. My mother and I started to attend therapy together, hoping to heal from the trauma of the past and to build a stronger bond in the present. It wasn't easy, but we were committed to moving forward and building a new future together. I still struggled with the guilt of what I had done to Olivia, but my mother helped me see that it was a result of my fear and paranoia. She encouraged me to seek therapy and to work through my emotions in a healthy way. As we started to build a new life together, I knew that the truth about my past would always be a part of me, but it didn't have to define me. I could choose to move forward and build a new future, one that was built on love, trust, and understanding. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. With the truth about my past finally out in the open, I started to feel like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I still had questions and uncertainties, but I also had a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. My mother and I continued to attend therapy and work through our emotions and trauma together. We also started to explore new activities and hobbies, building a stronger bond and connection with each other. One day, my mother suggested that we go back to the Mom and Child Bazaar together. At first, I was hesitant. The memories and trauma of the past were still fresh in my mind. But my mother assured me that we didn't have to exchange anyone or do anything we weren't comfortable with. She just wanted us to face our fears and reclaim the market as a place of positivity and hope. We went to the market together, walking around and taking in the sights and sounds. It was strange to be back there, knowing the truth about my past and the stories of other families who had gone through similar experiences. But as we walked around, I started to see the market in a new light. Instead of a place of fear and paranoia, it became a place of healing and connection. I saw families walking around together, laughing and joking with each other. It was a reminder that, despite the trauma and struggles of the past, there was still hope for a brighter future. As we left the market, I felt a sense of peace and closure that I hadn't felt in a long time. I knew that the truth about my past would always be a part of me, but it didn't have to define me. I could choose to move forward, to build a new future with my mother, and to find healing and connection in unexpected places. The road ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about what was to come. Together with my mother, I was ready to start a new chapter, one built on love, trust, and the power of facing our fears and reclaiming our past.